Welcome into University of Hoops, the show that gives you an inside look at the people making everything happen on your favorite basketball team. Today, we are so excited to welcome University of Kentucky Director of Video, Matt Santoro. Matt, welcome to the show, man.
Glad to be here, man. Super fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy New Year. I know you were, and for our viewers and our listeners who aren't instantly familiar with you right off the bat, I know you came over from BYU.
Yeah.
So pretty big 2024 for you and Coach Pope and Coach Fugger, who we had on earlier in the year when he was a member of BYU. So pretty big year for all of you guys, man. Let's just start there. What was it like ending 2024, making that's a pretty big shift going from BYU to Kentucky. Just talk me through there. I want to start there.
It has been a crazy year. Just besides the fact of, moving a couple thousand miles from the West Coast to the East Coast. But the season we had at BYU was incredible. I was only there for one season, but it was great timing on my part. We had our first season in the Big 12, and it was really interesting. Like, the expectations for BYU weren't really high. But I was so happy to be introduced to this team and the group of guys at BYU that really knew how to play for each other and really didn't know how to play any other way. So it kind of led us to, a hot start in non-conference play, and we were kind of able to build on that in conference play and become, I think we were 60 in the tournament, and kind of tried to make some noise in the Big 12. And after that off season, obviously, Calipari left and rocked the world, and it all became a blur from there, to be honest. Um, and moving out here to UK and not having any players on our roster was an interesting way to begin. Um, but we brought this group of guys together, and kind of similar to our team at BYU, right? Like, they know how to play together, and we kind of cultivated that through our summer program and preseason, and it's been an incredible ride so far.
Yeah, man. I mean, Kentucky, one of the first things I think a lot of people think about is Rupp. Obviously the history and everything that Coach Cal built when he was there. But you said it like you guys came in and it's basically like the arena is there, the practice facility is there, everything else is just like is out. And obviously the legacy is there and the esteem of the Kentucky brand is there. But how was that process of because I also know obviously along with the arena, the fans, right? And such a passionate, it's like religion there. Like Kentucky basketball is it's Duke, it's Kentucky, it's Carolina. Like you guys are in that upper elite echelon of hoops in general, college NBA, like you guys are there. So what has that process been like in terms of how the fans receive you guys? And I know you guys are off to a good start this season, which I'm sure has helped. But from getting the buy-in from the fans to then, building a team, just walk me through that next.
Yeah, so I mean, when you talk about buy-in and from the fans, obviously it's a huge part of this culture and this program. And I think it starts with the head coach, and Coach Pope has done a great job, kind of stepping into this role, both, inwards facing and outwards facing to the fans, right? Like, I really do think it's something refreshing for the fan base and something refreshing for the program to have, one of their own, leading this program. C Coach Pope said it in his introductory press conference, his first day on the job, and he was like, I understand the assignment, right? And, like, for this fan base, they know the assignment, and they know, the expectation is to win a national championship, basically every year, and anything short of that is considered not a success. So, um, I think having Coach Pope understand that message and be able to embrace it from day one, has kind of helped us build that with our team as well, and our staff, obviously, too. We're all understanding the assignment, and we know that anything short of a national championship is not good enough.
The whole thing is so fascinating because you mentioned right off the top, you were at BYU for 1 year, right? So
Yeah.
you're just starting out, and how many people in this business like to witness what you witnessed, and what did you learn, and what was that experience like watching Coach Pope and the staff just build out the roster. And I would also just imagine that's got to be super helpful as well with the highly evolving landscape of the NIL and transfer portal. Because in a sense, it isn't like what you guys had to do. A lot of teams and programs in football and basketball now, like they got to do it almost every year. So because
Right.
that is going to be the new normal, like what did you learn from that? And how does that position you, you think, as you go forward?
Yeah, it's a good question. And like it's hard to know what a normal off season is. Like this off season was definitely not one, but I think, as the college landscape, continues to evolve, I don't think there is such a thing as, a normal off season. Um, and so for us, like our whole thing was just trying to get players that fit well into what we're trying to do and, have the same motivation, that we do to win. And having that clear mindset from day one, and also, bringing in people, like myself and Cody that are familiar with coach's style of play, we were able to bring in guys that were very complementary to that. Um, and it's funny, and we talk about this sometimes in the office too. Like our first two signees, or our first three signees, I think were Amari Williams, Lamont Butler, and Otega Owe. And everybody says, Coach Pope's this offensive minded, guru, and our first three guys are all these defensive, savants. And they all have offensive games that go with that, and they've all shown that this year. But I think that part shows, our kind of willingness to step outside the box and just, try to build a championship contending team.
You mentioned Lamont Butler, and it's so crazy because I grew up in Southern California and I got my start in the media business covering high school hoops. And I
Right.
remember when he was in Riverside just tearing people apart. To watch him then go to San Diego State, the run they went on, to hit the shot that he hit in the Final Four. What's it been like working with him? And not just with him, but for you, for the staff, for all the players. What do you think this adjustment has been like for you guys playing against SEC competition?
Right. First, I'll start with Lamont. Lamont is like so fun to watch. Like his instincts are something that I haven't really seen defensively, f from any other player. Like he just has a nose for the ball and his ability to just be in the right spot at the right times. And you said it, like he made one of the biggest shots in Final Four history. He's a proven winner, right? Like San Diego State is an incredible program, and um, we definitely wanted him to bring some of that winning culture here to Kentucky, and he has. And I think, you know, going into SEC play, I think, our veteran leadership and just our us having an older team in general, um, suits us well. I think it's suited us well in non-conference, just having guys that have won in the past and know how to play the college game, has translated. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in what is, probably one of the best conferences of all time this year. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, we've talked a lot about the transition, the change, all the newness. Now I want to get into more about you and your journey and what you currently do, and we'll start there. As a director of video at one of the top programs, can you just walk me through what your day is like right now that you guys are in the full swing of the season?
Yeah, so the title is as it sounds. I'm basically in charge of, most of the video operations that go on, with the coaching staff. So, whether that's, getting live code for our own games, um, cutting up our own games, whether it's scout, getting the right games to coaches, and basically, breaking down, both sides of the ball and making sure every coach has what they need when they need it. And that's a very, broad ranging job, but it really is different every time. Like, if Coach Figure says, "Hey, can I get all of our, you know, 2 feet in the paint plays from the last game?" that's just something that we have to go do. And it's different projects every day, and obviously a lot of it right now is geared toward SEC and kind of getting our guys ready for what this conference is going to look like. We've kind of had themes built in throughout the season that have led up to what will help us in conference play. But with Florida on Saturday, it becomes a whole new challenge and it feels like a whole new season.
Yeah, I can imagine. And we'll do a quick plug there and tell our viewers to go watch our Jordan Jacobson episode, who is on the Florida staff. So that'll be cool. We'll have two alums going head to head, duking it out. Um, but the next thing I wanted to ask you, Coach, is so last year you're at BYU, you're a GA, right? And now this year, this is and it's so cool. I'm so happy for you and like excited for you that like this is your first year full time, right? To go to be at Kentucky, like what a first like full time opportunity. It just sounds awesome. With that said, I can imagine obviously an increase in responsibility and all of that, and also just I would imagine it really does help just with player relationships and whatever that you took that next step. So can you talk me through that a little bit and just explain maybe how that has helped your confidence and just what your message is to people out there because I'm sure a lot of people that watch this are GAs, right? And they want to take that next step. So what's your message there?
Yeah, being a GA is super interesting in terms of where you fit in this scheme of a program. Um, like you kind of blend the role between player relationships and then also coaching staff. So you're kind of in a unique position that even assistant coaches don't really get to have those different types of relationships with the players. Um, and I was fortunate enough with Coach Pope at BYU that I had similar responsibilities to what I have here, just in a GA capacity. So in terms of work responsibility, it was a good first year for me to learn all of those responsibilities, and then building relationships with players. Obviously it was great having Jackson come from BYU here to UK just to have the sort of familiarity, and Jackson in turn, being familiar with Coach Pope and bringing that to the rest of the team. But it was really unique coming here, knowing Coach Pope's system and really for the first time in my career being at a point where I can really, teach as well as still learn from our staff, but teach to our guys, hey, this is how Coach Pope likes this, and this is kind of our vision of what we want to run. And so, us along with, you know, Coach Feger and Leander Ridgway, our GA, who came from UK as well, or came from BYU as well. Um, that was kind of a great relationship aspect to this season so far.
Yeah, absolutely, coach. And one thing, I'm getting a note from our executive producer extraordinaire here, Sean, and he's telling me that through the BYU Grapevine, because of course we've had other guests on, because you just mentioned some guys that you played a lot of pregame horse with Dawson and TC last year,
Oh my.
and also through the grapevine that you struggled to shoot. Now, this is not coming from me. All right, I want to be clear here, so I don't want ever. I want to give you a chance to respond because I'm getting this note. It sounds like there's some trash talk going on here through the grapevine. So I want to give you a chance to fairly respond.
Look, compared to Dawson Baker, it might look like I struggle at shooting. But anytime executive producer Sean wants to catch me on the pickup floor, we can. But Dawson Baker having a great season for BYU. Yes, compared to him, it does look like I struggle shooting. So yeah, we'll leave it at that. I don't want to bring up any stats or my shot chart because that might help Sean. But yeah, I'm confident in my abilities.
Hey, look, man. None of us, Dawson Baker, none of us are gonna be, shooting the lights out against him. There's just no way. So I'm on your side there. Let the record know I'm
Thank
on
you.
I'm on
Yeah.
I'm on your side, Matt. Sometimes I get these notes. I gotta, I gotta air them out. But
I
anyways,
appreciate it.
yeah, of course. Back to the serious business at hand. Um, I want to just walk the viewers a little bit through your resume here, just
Yeah.
to give full context. So I know that you went to Pitt, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
University of Pittsburgh. Yeah,
Yes,
4 years, and I know you were a student manager there, and then you spent a year as an assistant at a D3 school, and then you spent some time with an AAU team as well in Philly, and then you were at BYU and now in Kentucky. Um, so you've traveled a bit and you've seen a couple different things. What are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned through that journey that you could then flip into some advice for the people watching?
Man, so yeah, it has been a journey. And so I'll just hit one from kind of each of my spots. But with Coach Capel and Pitt, I think resiliency and kind of sticking with your principles was a huge factor, right? Like I came in my first year as a freshman was Coach Cable's first year. Um, we obviously didn't have a lot of success in the years I was there. But I was able to see that, the bones of his culture and the foundation of what we were trying to build from a program that, was really scarred from years previous, um, was the right way to go, right? And COVID kind of threw a wrench into what would have been our probably best season. But um, Coach Cable has built an incredible culture there, and thankfully it's started to kind of show results. And I'm really proud of all the guys there. The staff is pretty much the same since when I left, so I'm super proud, and I always watch all those guys as much as I can. Um, and then from Division three, I think it's a great lesson. I think obviously everybody wants to go Division one, and it is alluring, but there are certain things that you get in Division three and like lower levels that you just don't get in Division one. Like in our program at Gwen and Mercy, it was really only five people, right? It was, or maybe four. It was three assistant coaches and our head coach. And so you have to hold all these different responsibilities. Like I was the video guy, I was, part ops guy, you're part PR guy and part social media guy. And you just need to, fill all these roles that you think you can help in, and think that you can make your program better. Um, and so that was super rewarding. And one of the things about being a Division three coach is you can also coach AAU, right? There's less restrictions from the NCAA when it comes to that. And so you're kind of able to get head coaching experience, and also it helps recruiting, obviously. Like we have mostly D3 kids on our team, so it's kind of a built-in recruiting tool while also giving yourself even more experience in the summers when you're not necessarily doing much or just recruiting, right? So I think Division three was really fun, and I implore guys to give it a chance, especially if you're just looking for a job and you're kind of down on your luck. I was just a part-time guy. I was working full-time in finance, and I was able to kind of have one foot in both of these worlds, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. It was such a good experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned Jeff Capel and some of your coaches that you have came across. Give me maybe your favorite nugget from whether it be Coach Pope or Capel or somebody else that you'd like to share that would be helpful.
Yeah, greatest piece of advice, and I think, from Coach Capel, and it's really shown itself. There's actually, I'm sure you can see it in some of the media that they have, but there's in the locker room, it's just basically a brick wall, and each brick is signed by a person that is or has been in the program, right? And it just says brick by brick on it, and it kind of symbolized where the program was when we got there, and each guy imprinting their own mark on a program, right? And it's so cliche. Everybody kind of says this as you're trying to break into the business, but you know finding ways to create value for the program and finding ways to make your mark, whether it's, creating graphics or whether it's, you know, chopping up extra film, late at night. Like it's super important, you know, to find ways to create value and just, try to make the program better.
Absolutely. And now I want to flip that question and ask you, what's your best piece of advice that you would dish out to somebody watching?
Oh man. Um, it's interesting in this business, like so many people are chasing the next opportunity, right? And trying to see what else is out there. And obviously it's unique of me to say this just because I'm here at University of Kentucky now, but really enjoying where you are. And trying to not look ahead too much because I think a lot of people can just get caught up in what's next for my career? Where am I trying to go? And I'm like, I need more money or I need, a better title or something like this or that. And it's really important to just remember where you are and you know, we have, 15 young men in this program that not only want to become better basketball players, but better people. And I think when a lot of us look for next opportunities, it's a more self-absorbed way to look at a career. So for me, I just focus on enjoying where I am, enjoying what I do and trying to make the most of these young men's careers that we have here at Kentucky.
Coach, I got to ask you too, and because you touched on being where your feet are and all of that. I know I'm victim to it in my career, and I think all of us are that are younger and that are starting out. If there's one thing you could go back and change that you would then dish out as advice, what would that be?
Ooh, one thing I would change. Um, I honestly don't know if I would change. I don't think I would change anything. I think I would have. I've been victim to looking forward a lot too, and like I think I should have enjoyed Division 3 more than I had, and it was only for one season, but I think my time in Division 1 has really helped me, look back on Division 3 and be like, oh man, like I wish I'd done this, I wish I'd done that, and a lot of that comes from the knowledge that I've gained, from Coach Pope and our staffs the last 2 years. But I think it was a really great experience, and I kind of wish I had the knowledge I had now to bring to those guys back then. But unfortunately, time only moves forward.
Absolutely, and ended up all right because now you're at Kentucky.
Yeah, no, I'm not complaining.
um, yeah, appreciate that, Coach. Uh, the next thing I want to ask you is more in more of a positive light. You've been a part and you've seen some really cool things at your stops between Pitt and at the D3 level, BYU and now Kentucky. What's a situation or a moment that you look back on so far that you say, "Damn, like I'm really proud of having helped construct that or just been part of."
Um, yeah, so I think back to last season at BYU. Um, one of the things that Coach Pope tasked me with as a GA, and this was like, I forget when this was. It was kind of early in the year, but um, we were focusing on trying to help Jackson Robinson um, inside the 3-point line. Right, he's obviously an incredible shooter, and he's grown so much as an offensive player and as a defensive player, but um, in terms of his finishing, I think the first couple of years of his career, it wasn't a highlight of his. So for us, we were like, hey, how can we get him better at finishing and just basically, you know, decision making. So um, coach had me along with Cody Feger every day just clip up all of his 2 feet in the paint clips like every time he got to 2 feet in the paint. And it's something we still emphasize to this day for all of our guys, just playing controlled on 2 feet. Um, so like every day we chart how many times Jack's got to 2 feet, whether it's in practice or in the game, and we watch all of them. And so it kind of showed itself when I think his 2 point field goal percentage jumped like 10% or 12% or something from year over year. Um, and so having him just become a more well-rounded, offensive player and, seeing him become more of a dual threat, three-level scorer than just a three-point shooter, was super awesome to see. And I obviously helped him at the combine this year and will continue to next year, because he's only been, building on that even more. So, that was something that was super cool and something that just a project I got to be a part of, but it was really cool to see at the end of the year.
Absolutely. It's that's got to be really cool to see some work that you put in help a guy improve and see results. So that's awesome. Um, One other thing that I want to ask you just about advice and stuff is just about how to kind of like broaden your network. What's your best advice for building relationships and making connections, whether that's just getting your foot in the door or moving up the ladder while still, as you said earlier, trying to be where your feet are?
Right. And like I would just say don't be afraid to talk to people in any situation. I think a lot of us like we get caught up in just not necessarily doing the bare minimum, but just doing what's required. Like I know at the Final Four, it's a big networking opportunity, but there's a lot of regional stuff, and even like if you go to high school game, like if you go to your local high school game, like there will be coaches there at any level, recruiting players, and you know, I don't want to say coaches watch every single second of a high school game, but like they're willing to talk to people. Um, so I would just say, you can be creative with how you meet people and how you gain insight from professionals in this business. And it's not necessarily going to paid conferences or anything like that might push the needle, but there are other more unique and creative ways to grow.
Absolutely. Um, Coach, you've enjoyed a lot of success and have also obviously overcome different kinds of adversity and challenges and moving from stop to stop, being able to transition a coach moving from one school to a school thousands of miles away. And we talked a lot about the basketball side. I know that what you do on the basketball side requires a lot of sacrifice and has its own set of like personal challenges. So with that stuff in mind, what's your why? What keeps you doing it and keeps you wanting to do the profession and to grow?
Yeah, I think it's similar to what we we touched on a little earlier, but seeing these guys grow and seeing them both on the court and off the court, change, as we go through season over season, right? Like Jackson Robinson is a different person than who I first met at BYU, for the better. Like he's older, he's more mature, and he has become a better basketball player as well. Um, and to see those changes, in each of our guys as we go through, um, it is really awesome, and it you know fulfills like what I do every day. Like it's not necessarily cutting up film is not necessarily a job that in a vacuum anybody really wants to do, right? It's a means to experience all the other great things that happen you know from being a part of a program like this. So seeing the growth of our guys and of our staff as well, it just really, affirms the more mundane part of my job, which, I never try to forget, because it makes that part just as good.
Absolutely. I think that's a really important and good message there, Coach. And you touched on it, right? Like it's a means to an end to not only experience a lot of the other stuff you get to experience, but also make headway going forward. So, what are your long term goals? Do you see yourself wanting to be on the bench? Do you want to go maybe the front office route, MBA, college? Like, where's your head at with all that stuff?
Yeah, I get that question a lot, and I never have a good answer, but I thought it was funny. A couple months ago, uh, Dwayne Casey, great NBA head coach, and he was here at Kentucky a long time ago. He came to practice and he came to talk to us at one point or another, and we all got to talk to him individually for a little bit, and he pulled me aside, and that was his first question. He was like, "Hey, what do you want to do?" I don't know, like. I love being on the coaching staff, but the NBA front office sounds great. He's like, hey, like just enjoy where you are. Like, and he's the one that helped me, gain that insight, right? Like he was like, this is Kentucky and you know, opportunities, doors will be open for you. Like it's not like you necessarily need to go seeking opportunities. Like the right opportunities will come at the right time. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm just enjoying this ride for wherever it will take me. And so I'm hoping doors are open, but we'll see down the road.
Man, what a great piece of advice. And that must have been super cool to hear from a guy who's so accomplished in the NBA.
Yeah, yeah, it was a great conversation. He's an awesome guy.
That's great to hear. Now, Matt, before we started recording, we were getting into some Sixers basketball talk. So I know, being a Philly guy, I got to ask you a couple Philly questions here before we get out of here,
Yeah,
if you
go
don't
ahead.
mind.
Yeah.
Um, what's your ideal Philly cheesesteak? What are you putting on it? And also, like, I just want to know, like, where do you think it ranks in the pantheon of food?
In the pantheon of food, it's got to be, you know, I don't know, t top three. It's the top of my food pyramid. And you ask what you want on it, and in all honesty, you know, cheesesteak you only need to order in two words. It's either it's either three words, I guess. It's two words. It's your cheese, and then whether with or without onions. So I'm a whiz wit guy. So I like it with onions and the little cheese whiz that I think everybody outside of Philly rags on, but I like it and that's the way you can get the full Philly cheesesteak experience. But yeah, whiz wit is my preferred cheesesteak.
I've only ever been to Philly one time. It was last year. It was for 3 days for a wedding, and it was one. And I know I was only there for 3 days. It was like one of the coolest cities that I've. And I live in New York, and I have a pretty, not to be pretentious, I have a pretty high bar for cities because I live and die by NYC, and Philly impressed me, man. And the cheesesteaks, like I had Philly cheesesteaks elsewhere. Getting a Philly cheesesteak from one of the spot, I forget which spot it was, but I was with somebody who like knew. So it was like one of the good like OG
Yeah, yeah.
places. And it was some life-changing stuff, man. It was
Well,
pretty good.
it's great to hear. And if cheesesteak out of Philly is not a cheesesteak, it just ends up being a steak
Matt,
sandwich.
you're telling me the Jersey Mike's cheesesteak, the Philly cheesesteak of
Oh my
Jersey
God.
Mike's isn't.
Get out of here. That's mortal sin. That's a
Yo,
mortal
I
sin.
just I just wanted to test how long we could be on here before you hung up on me. So I had to throw that in there. Last thing I want to ask you before we get out of here, man. In my full-time role, I work for Thursday Night Football, NFL on Prime, so I watch a lot of NFL. And we had the Eagles on this year on a Thursday night game, and they're obviously had a great season, upgraded that defense after the playoff struggles last year. So I'm wondering, what's your with Saquon? I know they're not going to give him the record against the Giants, which I was like, man, I wish they would let him play just so we could do it against his old team. But that beside the point, they're resting him for the playoffs. How are you feeling about your Super Bowl chances this year?
Um, I'm feeling great. Obviously we had the second half of the season meltdown last year, but it seems like a great group. I think they ironed out all the, chemistry issues they had last year. Um, it's going to be interesting in the office because it looks like the first round matchup is Eagles Packers and Cody Feger and our trainer Brandon Wells are like the two biggest Packers fans we have in the whole world. So it's going to be a tense week if that ends up being the matchup between them two and me and Andrew Carr are the Philly guys. So that'll be a fun week. I'm looking forward to it. I think he's a little more scared than I am, but he won't say that.
Hey, he's a Hoopsy alum, so I won't talk trash. But I mean, you got the you
I
you got
will.
you got the you got the right to be comfortable there. I would say. Last thing I want to ask you before we get out of here. I know I said the last question was last, but this I promise is the last one. Is there just anything else that you want to add that we didn't touch on or you wanted to touch on more?
No, man, I think we covered a lot. This has been super fun. I'm super, you know, proud of the work that you guys do and, kind of spreading the word about, getting into this profession, which is definitely not an easy profession to break into. I think all of that goes a long way to, somebody who like just a couple years ago was trying to do the same thing. So I really appreciate what you guys do and it certainly goes a long way.
And Matt, appreciate that a lot, man. It really vindicates what we're doing, what we're trying to do, and what we're trying to build here at Hoops U. So we appreciate that a lot. With that said, that's gonna wrap it for our interview with Kentucky Director of Video Matthew Santoro. Coach, thanks again so much for joining the show. We look forward to keeping in touch.
Yeah, have a go, man. It was super fun.
Yeah, you too, Matt. And thank you so much to our viewers for watching this episode of University of Hoops. We are the show taking you behind the scenes of your favorite basketball team with interviews each and every week. Stay tuned for our next show next week.